Gyldenriesparken is a local community regeneration project that combines green and sustainable elements. It's basically a carbon-neutral nursery, an old folks' home, as well as a number of low-energy buildings which serve as residential complexes, all located some 5 kilometers south of downtown Copenhagen. In many ways, Gyldenriesparken is a cradle-to-grave project. It is home to the very old, the very young, to people of all ages in between, and what's more, it is a great social leveler, for here live people from all different socio-economic classes and backgrounds.
In Denmark, nearly 20% of the country's 5.6 million people live in non-profit housing associations, which are classified as social housing. But the country has largely avoided the racial and ethnic segregation, which often accompanies these places. Gyldenriesparken, which has approximately 900 residents, is unique in Denmark in that it has an equal mix of ethnic Danes and immigrants, as well as socially vulnerable people such as the elderly and economically active people, all living side by side. In the late 90s, Gyldenriesparken had some problems with the facade of the buildings and also with differences among the people living there, both ethnic and socially. People could not find ways to live together peacefully, and the area became worn out because nobody took care for their surroundings. With the green refurbishment, this has changed. The decision to renovate was jointly made by the 900-odd residents.
We try to avoid segregation, and through that kind of projects, we in fact create integration between different people.
When we are insisting on developing a green and low-carbon economy and energy sector, when we insist on investing in getting the energy efficiency up and the energy waste down in buildings like here, it's because it both benefits the environment and also benefits the energy bills of the poor people.
The combination of welfare and green solutions is best evident in the Green Planet Nursery, a purpose-built daycare center inside the Gyldenriesparken complex.
Jeg kan jo tydeligt mærke forskel I forhold til, da vi var I vores gamle institutioner.
I feel a clear difference from when we were in the former buildings. Here is a special air and even sound to the place, which comes from the big, full their red windows which let in so much light, the high ceilings and the rubber floors which help muffle sound and creates a much better environment.
Built in 2009, according to the European Passive House Standard, the nursery uses 50% less energy for heating than comparable buildings today. This is achieved through a combination of thickly insulated walls, ground slabs and roof, and a carpet of green moss on its rooftop to absorb rainwater, which lowers the building's temperature by around 2 degrees Celsius in summer. Moreover, a smart ventilation system draws in air from outside the building and runs it underground to tap geothermal heat.
The nursery school is very special because it's built after the European standard of passive house building, and that means that according to today's building regulations, it uses 50% less energy for heating the building than an ordinary building built after the building regulations in Denmark. And this is done by making very thick walls with very thick insulation. We have 425 millimeters of insulation in the walls, and we have 450 millimeters of insulation in the ground slab and in the roof. So it is packed with insulation, and furthermore we have a green roof that makes it cooler in the summertime and makes the discharge of water less, because the green roof uses the water that lands on the roof, so you have less discharge to the community system.
Completing the circle of life in Gyldenriesparken is the Parken Nursing Center, just a stone's throw from the nursery school. It is home to some 80 residents, most aged above 75, who live in one-room apartments built to suit mobility needs of elderly people. Helle Christiansen, who has the center, says combining the care home with a residential complex and nursery school helps combat loneliness, a serious problem facing Denmark's elderly.
When you are elder, you are more weak, and we know from the readings that the loneliness is very big when you are living in a senior center. So it gives you the opportunity to have the lives among you and see the little kids, see them playing, see them screaming, see them talking, and see the families go to the grocery and do their shoppings as the elderly people did in their former lives.
There is still some work going on in Gyldenridsparken to increase the life quality for people living there.
The special thing about Gyldenridsparken was building the houses, refurbishing the buildings while people were living in them. We had to construct a new facade construction, where we took out the old windows and the old facades and put in new constructions on top of them. So the special thing about it was to take out these big building blocks and put in new building blocks while people stayed in the houses.
Matt Parkner has lived in Gyldenridsparken since 1966, and she can tell about how it was to more or less have the construction workers working in her bedroom. But even if things was a bit hard for a few months, today she's very happy with the result.
I starten var det svært, fordi vi kunne ikke komme.
It was hard to start with as we could not move around much, but we got used to the refurbishment process. We had walls in our living room, so all the furniture was placed in one end. But we got the best out of the situation, and we had heaters throughout as possible. In hindsight, it was not that bad.
Urban regeneration, like what we see in Gyldenridsparken, is something that needs big investments. The investment for the green refurbishment was partly taken from a fund called Landbyggefonden, and an increased rent for the apartments.
The investment in Gyldenridsparken equalizes almost half the cost price for new housing, and that means we have invested in Danish crown about 1 million in each flat, and if we had to build new flats, it would have cost more than 2 million each flat.
Urban regeneration doesn't have one fixed solution. It will always be a combination of many solutions. One will definitely always be insulation to ensure that new buildings are energy efficient. Other will be like using waste water to district heating systems. And the third option, of course, will be to ensure renewables sources for the energy supply. So there are many possibilities. I think the most important experience from the Danish side is that this shouldn't be a question of choosing between low carbon, good environment, nice building, aesthetic buildings or economy. We should make the green transition in a way that makes it very attractive, both economically, also when it comes to architecture and aesthetics.
In Denmark, there is a kind of resident democracy, which means that the residents in a social residential area like Gyldenridsparken are asked before the changes and the increasing monthly rent.
When we started back in 1999, when we started to discuss the renovation, the price was 250 million kroner. But because of the price has increased in the meantime up till 2005 when we started, it has up to 400 million kroner for the whole renovation, and most of the money comes from Landsbyggefonden, the social housing association, and they have agreed to come with most of the money, but the rest of the money the people have to pay with an increase in their rent for the apartments. They have increased their around for the flat we have seen with Mette costs about 500 kroner more after the renovation than before. That's quite cheap, in my opinion.
To Matt, the increase in her monthly payments has actually become a good investment for her also. Because of the lower energy use in the refurbished building, she saves money on her annual bills for heating.
Ja, det var på den gode måde.
I usually have to pay around 500 to 600 kroner when the heat account for a year is made. But this year, I had 400 to 300 kroner in return, and that was a pleasant surprise. So now I have a little extra for my vacation.
Currently, buildings account for over 40% of Denmark's total annual carbon dioxide emissions, and the government wants to refit thousands of buildings to improve their energy efficiency and save on future power costs.